Alright, so let's do this. So I haven't done a video in a while, in a very long while, and the reason for that is a lot of things have changed since last time I did a video. I'm no longer in a couple of clans that I used to be. I haven't moved or anything. School ended. My school's kind of rough. Thinking of changing schools, all the fun stuff. Blah blah blah. The list goes on. I haven't stopped playing tanks though. I've sort of like still been playing tanks. Off and on. I think this is the current addiction that I've had for a while. I'm playing Diablo 3 as well, kind of a lot. Sort of like waiting on the next patch. I'm kind of like at this point in the game in which I can't proceed unless I find very specific items, and at this point I'm kind of like, do I really want to put in that much effort in that game? I'm kind of like still thinking to myself whether I should or shouldn't, but you know, that's a different story. But I apologize to people who are kind of like surprised, you know, not surprised but subscribed to this channel hoping to see more videos. I'll do my best to upload as much content as I can over the next couple of days, hopefully to get a schedule going, you know, at more or less decent rate. So with that being said, I guess let's start with like where we left off. Like before, you know, if you have followed me before, if you've seen some of the older videos, you know, I kind of like go over some of the tanks that I've gotten since the last time. So obviously the roster has expanded by quite a fair bit since the last time. I've ground most of these tanks out. These are not like, I don't have, unfortunately I'm a college student, so I don't have, you know, gold coming out of my ears. You know, I'm kind of like even struggling to buy a premium for the next 30 days. I'm still thinking whether I'll have enough money or not. And so, because at this point this game has become a luxury, and you know, in hard times you kind of like have to decide whether you want to keep up with luxuries or not. But you know, I now have the 140, the T62A, the waffle, you know, all the fun stuff. So these are all the tier 10s. I'm not gonna do a review about all these tier 10s, just because, you know, you can Google it and a lot of people are doing reviews. I'm much more interested in how to play these specific tanks, you know, because I think that's what people don't understand is like every tank comes with like specific amount of advantages and disadvantages, and your job is to negate your disadvantages and play a tank to its strength. Like many people will tell you, oh, you know, Leopard 1's an amazing tank. You know, no, it's not. It's a very, very hard tank to play well. Even I struggle to play this tank fairly well. I'm being so much more competent than I would say some of the average people I encounter on the servers. And so this is kind of like the roster of tanks. You know, at some point I'll go over how to play these tanks effectively. You know, I can tell you that after owning some of these tanks, I have had some favorites. I thought I would like the Leopard one more, but I don't. I like the E50M better. It's because, especially in playing in pub matches, the little bit of armor that the E50M has, actually its frontal armor is kind of insane. The frontal armor of this thing will bounce so many shots, and Leopard 1 will just get, you know, you'll get yourself killed. That is not to say that any one tank is overpowered. You know, I've taken out fellow E50Ms relatively easily. There's, you know, no magical tank in tier 10 is going to make you a better player. If you're struggling with like your win percentage at lower tiers, I would suggest do not rush for a tier 10. It's not going to make your game any better. It's not going to make your experience any better. Tier 10s are much more unforgiving than tier 6s are. Once you get close to tier 8, you'll run into 183s, waffles, tanks that can one-shot you, like, or, you know, clip you out like right off the bat. You run into AMX 5100s, which at tier 8 can like clip out a full health, and most of the tier 8 heavies pretty easily. You run into MX 50Bs, T57s, which do about 1600 damage a clip. So getting into a higher tiered game is sort of like a false promise. You think like you're going higher in tier, your tank's gonna be overpowered and you're gonna clip people out, but that's not necessarily the case. You know, like if you come into a tier 10 match, if I'm playing a tier 10 match, if there's a better player in tier 8 tank, he's not that big of a concern for me. I'm gonna take out tier 10s first and then come around to killing tier 8s. If you're dropping a waffle, do you think you're gonna come around a corner, like, you know, clip somebody out? If he knows what he's doing with his tank, you know, like a Yakpanzer E100, I have taken the entire clip to the face in the Yakpanzer E100 and maybe taken one shot of damage. So just because you're driving the overpowered tank doesn't necessarily automatically guarantee that you're gonna play that tank better. So that is one thing you should keep in mind. If you're struggling with your win rates, you know, you're not understanding why you keep on losing the game, you know, you should try to play it at a lower tier before you jump into a higher tier. So, you know, at a lower tier, like, there's specific tanks that will help you, like, understand the game a lot better, you know, and I can go ahead and, like, tell you some of the things that you need to know in order to play tanks a lot better. World of Tanks, you know, is a game that requires a lot of knowledge, like Dota, like, you know, League of Legends, like any other MOBA game that you'll play. You know, it requires a lot of base knowledge. It's not very simple game. When I came into this game, I thought, oh, you know, I just need to know how my tank plays well, blah, 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 and I will play well. No, you need to know specific things about every tank in your tier, and the tier higher, tier lower. And over the course of, let's say, 10,000 or 20,000 games, if you're paying attention, you will learn those things. For example, like, how fast is the E50M reload? What is, you know, the effective armor of the Upper Glacius? Where the weak points are? If I get into a full art brawl with another tank, how much damage will I take before I kill him? All these things are calculations that, you know, players who play at a higher level will do these things better than you do. For example, I know what the reload time is on a Hellcat, you know. So in between shots, I know whether I can take 2 shots in my Panzer for Schmoltram or not. You know, which are the weak spots on this tank. If I'm facing a Hellcat, what are my advantages? What are his disadvantages? These are the things that makes you a better tanker. You know, these are the things that will make you a lot better at playing World of Tanks. Getting into a tier 10 tank does not make you a better tanker. You know, I've seen so many people who own like E100s and Yakpanzer E100s. You know, there's a game today, you know, hopefully that I'll show you at some point. I basically killed a full health Yakpanzer E100, and all he was able to do was fire a shot at somebody else. So this video is more going to be a rant, which I don't really like to do, but at the same time, you know, looking at like how the player base is developing, you know, it's kind of like hard that people like to get tier 10s, which I totally understand. I wanted a tier 10, but like once I got into tier 10s, you have to realize that tier 10s will not make you will not make your gameplay better, will not help you learn the game better. Tier 10s are much more unforgiving. You make a mistake, you'll instantly pay for it. And that unfortunately is true at almost every tier, but tier 10s is far worse. Because you'll lose a lot of your hit points. Even though you think you know what you're doing, it's very hard. Even now, like, I get like shot sometimes, I have no idea which mechanic I'm not taking into account, you know, for which I'm like getting punished for. So if you're new to the game, do not rush for a tier 10. Wait. I got my first tier 10 when I had like 8,000-9,000 games, which is kind of a lot. I've seen people who have 4K games and have a tier 10, but that was because I was playing so many games at like other tiers. I was like entrenched in so many tiers across like all nations because I wanted every tank. So by the time I got around to getting my first tank, I actually had like 8 or 9K battles under my belt in like different tiers across different types of tanks, which is also an important thing. Just because you like heavy tanks, you should play mediums. You should understand what their skill set is. You will know how to play tanks a lot better. You know, if you play a tank, you know what the disadvantages are, where it gets pinned more often. You should always take a mental note of those things, you know, and take that with you when you're playing against that tank, because if you play that tank, you know what that tank is good for, what that tank is bad for. Notice what your reload is, then you'll know what your reload, if you face that tank in battle, what his reload is, what is the pen on that tank. All these things should factor into how you play World of Tanks. And if that sounds like a lot, then maybe you're just should be happy at being 49%er or 50%er, all that. But if you really want to get good at the game, if you really want to get good at the game, which I kind of am. I'm kind of a perfectionist. I like to be good at what I do. I don't like to be average at what I am doing. So that is one thing you should take into account. Well, I mean, enough of that rant. I'll do some more of it at some other point. My stats are a lot better. If you want to know your stats, go to noobmeter.com. You can just type your name in, check the server. You will come to realize what your server, what your rating is, and blah blah. So these are all the tier 10s I own. Waffle being my least favorite tank out of all of them. I think it's a terrible tank. I dislike playing it. I was this close to selling it a couple of times, but then people remind me that it might be needed for clan wars, and so I just keep it around. I don't have a lot of games in it. And I play it just one game a day. It's I don't understand how some people can have 1,000 games in that thing. It just baffles my mind. It's more or less like an RD. You go around, you clip something, fire 6 shells into it, maybe kill it, and then just wait for a minute, and then reload and rinse and repeat. In that process, maybe something spots you, and RD just comes down on you, and your game's over. It's a game. It's a tank I dislike for a lot of reasons. AMX50B was my first tier 10. It's still one of my favorites. Leopard 1, not liking it by a lot. E50M is definitely one of my more preferred tanks to play. I would very happily jump into one. I recently got the FE215B, an amazing tank. Again, no tank in this game is perfect. If you think you're going to get one tank that's going to destroy every other tank, you're terribly mistaken. That's not how this game plays, because if that was the case, everybody would play that tank and nobody else would have any reason to play any other tank. FE4 tier 2, I still think it's a good tank. It has its disadvantages, but it's not a bad tank as people make it out to be. M48 Patton, amazing tank. I love it. I would love it to pieces. I would play it any day. I have better damage in it than my Leopard 1. Object 140, I've not had good games in it. I don't know why that's the case. I don't know what's the reason. Maybe I'm playing it way too aggressively, or maybe I should play it somebody who's much more confident than I am, and then maybe he can tell me what I'm doing wrong. STB1 is an amazing tank. You should get it. Lorraine, I just recently got it. Some of the other tier tanks that you want to look at my stats, more than free to browse over here and pause and say in the comments what you dislike and like about them. So yeah, I would I mean, hopefully this is just an update video. I'm just ranting on about things that not necessarily are connected with World of Tanks, but not necessarily I don't know what I would put in the background and talk over about all of this. So I mean, some of the things that you want to keep in mind is, if you're really invested in the game, you need to buy yourself a premium account. It's going to save you a lot of headache. That's the first thing you should get, is a premium account. Then you should buy yourself a premium tank. There's some great choices out there. I own most of them. I can tell you that you do not have to buy a tier 8 premium, one of these like the FCM, the Lurve, the Yak Tiger 88, the T34, IS6, or all these other tanks. Do not buy them just because you saw a YouTuber and he said it. All tanks play very differently. You have your individual preferences. Some tanks you will like better than the others. For example, I'll give you a very good example. Lurve is a tank that many people hate, or low, or how do you want to call it, is many people hate. They will say, oh my god, it's a bad tank, but it's one of my favorite tanks if I'm playing a tier 8 premium tank. My experience gained in it is quite high. Average damage cost to tanks is quite high. You know, T-34, again, I do not enjoy playing my T-34. I enjoy playing the Lurve a lot more. The Lurve a lot more. So, I mean, it's up to you what you like. You know, in that same sentence, Panther M10 is one of my favorite tanks. It is a very, very bad tank. The penetration is horrible on that tank. But I make it work somehow. And that, for me, is what you should do. You should go on the test server, try out the premium, see what you like, and, you know, go from there. Select the one that you prefer and then, you know, buy it. You don't have to have a tier 8 premium per se, you know, although that will make you more money. You can have good games in the Panther M10. You can have decent games in the SC-122-44 and make decent money. So buying a specific tank does not necessarily mean you're going to get a lot of money. It's a tank that you prefer playing will make you a lot of money. And I will upload a video about the Panther M10 at some point because I do enjoy playing that tank quite a fair bit. Though I haven't gotten around to playing it just because I've been grinding other tanks at the moment. So some of my grinds at the moment are the IS-8 towards the IS-7. You know, I already got the T-62 and the Object 140, so I kept the T-54 around because I like that tank. T-57 is another tank I'm kind of like looking forward to getting. You know, got the FE-215B, got the FE-4202, and, you know, finally the Lorraine, you know, towards the Batchat. Again, if you're thinking of a tank, Batchat and Leo 1 should be your last priorities, and the 121, because all those three tanks require a very big knowledge and very good, like, should have really encyclopedic knowledge about what you're facing in those tanks. Very good knowledge about the terrain to make it work more efficiently, because the Leo 1 relies purely on its camo. If it's hidden and it's firing and it stays hidden, it will wreck tanks. But as soon as it's spotted, it will get wrecked, because anything that sneezes in its general direction will actually pen it. I had a game yesterday with the IS-8. There was a Leopard PTA. He was trying to side scrape. I don't know why he thought he could side scrape. The side armor on the Leopard PTA is so bad. Here, I think it's the same as a Leopard 1. It's only 35, so I can overmatch that armor with the 122. All I had to do was poke out just a little and hit him in the side, and it will overmatch the armor, go and do full damage. So I wrecked him for 500 damage in my IS-8. So, I mean, you should be aware of these things and these little mechanics that go into, like, World of Tanks. Maybe I'll make a video of it sometime, you know, and try to explain to people how, like, these specific mechanics work, and they should take those into consideration whenever they're playing. So, I mean, other than that, you know, Batchat 121 has very bad gun depression, -3 degrees. I don't think you realize how bad that gun depression is until you play maybe a Chinese. Play the type T-34. If you think you can live with the gun depression, that is what the 121's gun depression is. And gun depression will matter, because there's tanks who will outmatch you on, like, hilly terrain and things like that, where your gun depression will not, they will use their gun depression, like the STB-1 has amazing gun depression for a tier 10. It'll just come over the top and shoot you and run away, and you cannot do anything, because, you know, it will be hauled down, will have the gun depression to its use, and, you know, it'll use it much more effectively than your tank. So 121 Batchat is a very interesting tank. It's because it's a scout / medium tank, and it only comes into its own towards late game. Like, it's not an early game tank. You cannot have a Batchat and run headfirst into the first tank you see and think you're gonna clip it out and then run away. That's generally not how it works. You may bounce 2 shells, you may bounce 1 shell, you know, you might not clip it out, but then you are reloading for 40 seconds, and if that tank has the speed to even chase you down or track you multiple times, you are dead. So those 3 tanks I would stay away from. If you want to get yourself a very good medium and start off, like, if you're a medium tank person, get the Object 140. It is an amazing medium tank. If you know, Object 140, you know, is very well rounded, good DPM, good firepower, good armor, decent armor. It's not the best. You can try the STB one. Object 140 in Rhine, in my opinion, was a little better because the T54 and the T44 are pretty good tanks. If you want an overall tank, FE4202 is an amazing tank. Every tank in that line is good leading up to the FE4202. Even the FE4202, even though its naysayers are like, oh, it's so bad, blah blah. No, it's not. Tank's good. It works well for what it does. And so, if you're really thinking of buying or getting yourself medium tanks, think about the FE4202. TDs, I have no opinions about. I hate TDs in general, but if you really want to get like a TD, I don't know, get the Waffenträger, 183 if you really want to get, you can get, but there's rumors that its Hesh ammo is going to be nerfed, and if you're not going to play that tank without its Hesh ammo, you might as well get the Jagdpanzer E100. Jagdpanzer E100 is a very good tank, but it needs to be played more like an assault gun than a camping TD, and that's and you should realize what and at that point you should know how the armor angling should work and blah blah. So it's kind of like more difficult for people to play it because it has weak spots, and if you know what you're doing, you can wreck this tank pretty easily. M48 is another great choice in my opinion if you're just gonna play in pubs. Object 140, the advantage is you can actually take it into Clan Wars. M48 and M422 are never called upon in Clan Wars. It's a tank we will throw away if you were just gonna do a strategy in which nobody cares what they're doing. They're just going to dirt rush one side, and we don't care if we lock our tanks. So we'll play the M48 or the FE4202. But in pub matches, FE4202, M48, and E50M are amazing tanks. Especially the E50M, just because its accuracy is so high. It's pinpoint accurate. One of the best gun handlings in the game, and the penetration is the highest for mediums, 270. Even though it's only 2 millimeters higher than the other APCR rounds, but it's amazing tank. I love playing this tank. I've had really good games in it. I think my average damage in this tank is highest amongst all the tanks that I own. Let me see. I think my best one is probably the STB with 2600. Where's my E50M? Yeah, about the same, I suppose. 2666, and I think the other one was 2680. Yep. So, I mean, that just goes to show E50M is really good. DPM matters in some cases, but it doesn't really in some matters. Your pocket heavy, your frontal armor is kind of amazing. Lower plate is very susceptible to getting penetrated, but if you can sort of hide your lower plate and wiggle the turret, because the turret's actually pretty weak too, you are in very good shape. If you present a static target to anybody in any tank, they are weak spots everywhere, and they will pen you. For example, here you can pen him right there or pen him right over here, but if it goes moving forward and backward, it's kind of hard to press. So there's no tank in which you can just sit in one spot and take a lot of fire. So that's what I'm trying to say. As far as heavies are concerned, if you really know how to angle your armor really well, E100 is an amazing choice for a heavy. If you want to have just a journal tank that you want to play, want a good all-around tank, get the T110E5. I7 is really good too, but I've heard its sturd is really good. It really has no the i7 sturd really does not have any weak spots. So if you can go haul down, it's really effective. But again, you cannot always factor that into playing a match against people. Sometimes you'll run into places where you won't have the luxury of going haul down. So I mean, it kind of depends on your choice. Scout players, for those of you who are out there, I would just get the Chaffee. VZ 131 is really good. 132 is amazing. 132 is more of a medium tank and a medium / scout hybrid. T71 is an amazing scout as well. I'll play them more once I get some more tier 10s to flush out because I really have no heavies. So I have some unlocked, tier 9s unlocked, but I really don't have the money to kind of buy them yet. So if you see here, I have the T54 E1. If you go to Germany, I have the E75 unlocked, but haven't had the money to purchase it. If we go to China, I have the VZ11114 unlocked, but I haven't had the money to purchase it. I will get the T110E5 at some point. I don't want to grind the T32 because even though it's a great tank, I play well in it. Just the gun is just the gun just makes me not want to play that tank for some reason. So let's see, what else can we rant about? Let's see. Over here I have most of the tanks that I want. I really don't care about the 183. I think it's a garbage tank. It's not a garbage tank as in it's a bad tank. It's just a tank that I actually do not care for. I'm probably gonna get the nice 7 as well. Probably gonna get the T110E5 at some point. But probably before that, I'll probably get the E100 at some point. I just haven't gotten around to purchasing my E75. For TDs, I think the next TD I probably will get is probably the 268. Even though the 704 is 268's been nerfed into the ground, it used to be a lot better. It's still an amazing TD. So I mean, that's kind of like the overview and all the things I wanted to rant about today. Please, if you're a new person who's just getting into World of Tanks, play heavies. They're much more forgiving. If you really want to stick to it, stick to tier 6, and tier 6 is probably the ideal tier to learn a lot of tanks. I learned my medium from playing the Cromwell a lot, because when to sort of like engage tanks, when not to engage tanks, because Cromwell is what you will face at tier 10, is what the tanks will be like. Most of them will be really agile, have quick firing guns, but will have no armor. Everything will pin it under the sun. So if you really want to see what the what tier 10 mediums play the Cromwell a lot, that's what the tier 10 mediums play like. That's a medium that kind of like taught me how to play mediums. I still love that tank a lot. It's kind of amazing tank. Hellcat, will teach you how to play tier tank destroyers. Do not camp in this thing forever. I come against bad Hellcat drivers. What they do is they'll find this corner, stick in it forever. At some point you'll have to move, look at the minimap, see where you need it the most, and keep your gun in play. The longer you keep it in play, the better it's gonna, the outcome for the game is gonna be. Stay hidden, because that's the advantage that this tank is. If you're lit, RD loops one shell into you, you're basically either losing all of your health or most of your health. So that's what it is. If you really want to play like a tier 6 183, then you can play the KV2, and that's essentially what the 183 is. It's a rolling slot machine. Sometimes it will pin, it will do a lot of damage. Sometimes it won't, and you'll get totally owned by the first thing that comes across the corner. So yeah, I mean, that's my advice for somewhat newer people. I see so many people running into tier 10s because, I don't know where they hear it, that the tier 10 tank for some reason is better than tier 6 tank. Yes, it is, but it's never going to face a tier 6 is never going to face a tier 10 tank. A tier 10 will face a lot of other tier 10 tanks. If people think that the E100's overpowered because if it's armor, it's not. Good example is I play a lot of mediums, so let's say if I'm in my object 140, he fires, its accuracy is horrible. For example, worst case scenario, it misses me, in my 140. I have 15 seconds roughly for it before it reloads and fires a second shot. Between that 15 seconds, I can put at least 2 rounds into it and back off into safety. Those 2 rounds will do a combined damage of 640 to him. And at that point, if I track him, twice, I can, if he's in an open area, if he's by himself, if I track him, I can circle him to death and he won't be able to do anything to me. I can come close enough where he cannot even, I can go to his side and hug him really closely, where I will make sure that the only place he fires into is my turret, And at that point, if he hasn't lowered the heat, he fires at an awkward angle. I move at the right time, he might bounce, and at that point, he has another 15 seconds where he'll be tracked, and I'll keep pummeling shots into him. So, just because a tank is overpowered is because it is overpowered in a specific situation. If you do not understand how to play a tank in a specific situation, you're not going to be good at this game. Do not rush to get tanks that people will tell you are overpowered, because they're overpowered in very specific situations. Tanks that are not overpowered because they play well in almost all situations. So when they play well in a lot of situations, they're not masters at one particular thing. For example, E100, terrific armor, can come across, melt anybody's face, and go back into side scraping. When it's side scraping, it's terrific. It's not so good when it's rushing you down or trying to rush you down. I had a game against one of my friends. We just came across in 2 different platoons. We were in two FE215Bs. They were in a Moss and IS-7 and one other tank, I can't remember. And the Moss comes straight across me, I just loaded premium shells and fired straight into his turret. Because that's the weak spot of the Moss. Is if it's looking straight at you, you can just fire straight into its turret and you'll wreck it. And don't be offended if somebody uses gold. You should be happy. That means he thinks that you're valuable enough that you need to be taken out, and he needs all the advantage that he has. If you have problems with firing gold, I don't fire gold particularly a lot. I'll keep it, but I'll use it when I have to. If I'm staring down E100, I'm not going to chance it by firing a regular round and trying to pen him. I'm just going to fire heat, maybe once or twice, and just make sure that I take that tank out. Not firing heat in some situations is not a good thing you should be doing, and the reason for that is there is certain situations that require you to fire premium rounds. It should not be your first option. You should not just fire premium rounds right off the bat. If you have the credits to spare, go for it. Be prepared for people to get angry at you. That's what I'll say. Even I'll get angry at people sometimes, because for some tanks you do not need premium rounds to pen it, and I don't understand why people insist on wasting their money to sort of fire. For example, if I came across a T54 running premium rounds at my Leopard PTA, I will get angry, because there's absolutely no need for that to happen. It's not that at that point I'm more annoyed that the person does not understand what the armor on my tank is than firing premium rounds. That just shows a lack of knowledge of the game in general, and that he's just firing premium just because he thinks he needs that advantage against everybody. And so at that point I'm much more likely to rage at him for that. So there's that. So if you're having hard time playing tier 10s, trust me, tier 10 win rates are much lower than tier 6, because at tier 6 you are able to carry a game much more effectively than you are at tier 10. So stick to tier 6, make sure you understand a lot of fundamentals, then move up a tier. If you move up a tier, it's not going to be any better, to be really honest. If you do not understand how side scraping works, how camouflage works, how reverse side scraping works for some tanks, how RNG works, what is the high roll or low roll on tanks, all these terms if they are alien to you and you don't understand what I'm talking about, you're not going to fare much better at tier 7 or even 10 than you are at tier 6. Make sure you understand a lot of these terms before you move up a tier. It's kind of because these fundamentals are what will teach you how to play World of Tanks. It will not, just because you got a tier 10 does not make you superhuman. I can destroy any tier 10, given any tier 10, provided that he has no idea what he's doing in his tank. You can give me a Chaffee, I can destroy any tier 10 if he doesn't know what he's doing. True, it will be pretty hard for me to do it, but I can actually do it. So you should keep all these things in mind and not just rush ahead and try to do these things. But anyways, that was my rant video. If you really want to see something about rant, I'll just upload it. But I'll also upload a video a couple of days from maybe in a couple of days, and hopefully you'll get to see it, and I'll definitely go into some gameplay then and tell you how to play certain tanks more effectively. I think what I have in mind is a couple of my there's an i8 game and a T54E1 game. So those two tanks, you know, I recently got my ace tanker in. I love my i8. I don't know why people hate it. You know, you should play it just like a oversized medium, and it works out fairly well. If you play it like a heavy tank, you're gonna not have so much fun in it. I think I'll keep this tank. You know, I enjoy what this thing can actually do. So with that being said, hopefully you enjoyed this little rant session. If you did not, then, you know, I apologize for it. But you know, do leave me a comment. Tell me whether you agree with a lot of, you know, things or not. If you need help with World of Tanks, knowing how to play certain tanks, I'm more than happy to teach people who do not know how to play this tank better, how to play World of Tanks better, or a specific tank better. That is completely understandable. I was a noob too. I was a scrub lord. I mean, there's still tanks that I have that have really poor win rates, and if I go back and look through my service record, like some of my earlier tanks that I only play like maybe 1 or 2 game in, I don't have really good I don't have really good like win rates in them per se. So here, let's see. See FTR 4 games, whole tractors, and then win a single game in it. You know, and so I mean, you can look through it. You know, you can look through my history on Noob Meter. You just put my name in, and you can look at my earlier tanks. I was not a good player till about I had 8,000 games, and I'm here to sort of like save you all the same problem. So I mean, if there's certain help you want, I'll be more than happy to make a video about it. I'm thinking about making a video about all the things that I did wrong and basically paid for it. So I will try to keep that in mind next time I make a video. Maybe hopefully learning from failures is what we all can do together. But anyways, if you agree with a lot of my comments, do leave me a suggestion. If you know, you agree with it, disagree with it, you know, we can always have a healthy debate, so long as you do not devolve yourself into like calling each other's names, or, you know, gold spammer or noob or all these other things. You know, also, like, if you have a replay that, you know, you want to submit it to me, you know, just upload it on whatreplays.com. Here, I can show it to you. whatreplays.com. This website, you can just upload the link and just send me the link, or, you know, you can just leave me a message or send me a link, and I will actually look through them, and hopefully you know, I can critique what you did wrong, what you should have been doing. It will help me a lot if you let me know, you know, if you're looking for help, you know, for a specific tank and stuff. I will definitely look into it, maybe help you, guide you more. I'm definitely open to platooning as well, but you should definitely be open to some criticism. If you're gonna come and like ask me for help, I'll definitely help you, but you should be prepared to change how you play the game in a certain way. And, you know, I'd be more than happy to platoon with you and teach you what you should be doing and should not be doing. Well, this video has been far too long. I'll just call it quits now. Hopefully I'll see you soon.